This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's live weekly podcast series, The Weekly Séance. And I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, and definitely comment because we might make you famous. You can listen to the show on Libsyn, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcast, and soon Apple Podcast. This evening, let me scroll a little bit more here. There we go. There's my notes. Gloria Hass is a forensic visionary and being a natural-born clairvoyant. She has many paranormal gifts, including remote viewing, remote touching, hearing conversations, seeing in spirit world, as well as communicating with spirits. As visions and dreams with messages, Gloria is an award-winning best-selling author. She performed readings for clients throughout the United States and the UK. Being a forensic visionary, she helps the police and people find their lost loved ones. As well as Gloria is a vlogger and talk show host on Without a Trace and The Haas Reports. We welcome tonight on Conscious Radio Network, Gloria Hass. Welcome to the show, Gloria. Gotta have the applause.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Let's start out. 'Cause you asked me, I was like, why did I put X-Files on there? I'm like, well, because it's catchy. So you may not work with the X-Files or have an X-File-ish thing, but it's intriguing that some of the work that you've done is help law enforcement or people and families and stuff like that try to find loved ones. But how did, before we get into the meat of the show tonight, explain how did this all start for you?
Well, I know my parents moved us from the Midwest to California, and I think it was probably on that trip, and I was about 4 years old, 3.5, 4 years old, and we're going on this road, which we'd never been down before, in one of those big, huge, old metal 1950-something cars, either a Plymouth or a Chevy. So we're riding down, and I'm standing on the middle hump, and my brother's asleep in the back seat, which I miss those back seats that are about the size of a twin bed. But I'm standing, and my dad was driving, and my mom didn't know how to drive at the time. And he looked at her and said, Elaine, he said, we're on empty, and it's one of those big roads you have down the steep decline with a huge incline. And when you're pulling a really heavy metal truck, it's going to suck up all the gas, whatever gas is left in the tank. And my mom just said, do the best you can. He goes, well, I'm going to floor it. And I don't know where there's gas around here because we've never been down this way before. And I looked at him, and I remember this so vividly. And I said, Daddy? He goes, yes. I said, you don't have to worry, because at the top of that hill that you're going to go up, on your side of the street, because I didn't know left from right at the time, on your side of the street, there's going to be a gas station. And he just looked at my mom and just sort of glanced in the rear view mirror, and he goes, well, how do you know that? I said, because I can see it. And he said, well, you must have awfully good, eyesight, because I sure can't. I said, well, Daddy, I can see it, and you'll be fine. But when you get to the top of the hill, be careful, because you'll need to turn quickly towards where you are in the car. And, that's where you need to go in.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, now sit back down, and we're going to take this for a ride. So we go down the hill. Of course, I'm in the backseat going, wee, because you hit the bottom and go up. And then as soon as they get up there, there's the gas station. And my dad pulls in, and my mom said, well, you get gas. I'm going to take the kids and to the bathroom. And she was waking my brother up. And I just climbed over him when she opened up the seat, and I just climbed right out. And she goes, where are you going? I said, to the bathroom. She said, well, wait a minute. You don't know where they are? I go, yes, mommy, they're this way. And I could tell her what was inside the entire place.
Wow.
And my parents said, we will not speak of this to anyone.
Has there anybody in your family, any ancestors in your family that have had the gift of sight, clairvoyance, clairaudience, or any of the clairs?
My mom and I were very connected in that way. And that's all that I really know, because her mother was institutionalized.
Yeah.
My mom was a child, and she never spoke of it. And I found that out after my mother's death. So I don't know, but I do know that the ancestry on my mother's maternal side are Romanian gypsies.
Yeah.
So that's where it could all, have started and built up. And
yeah. Huh. Now you have a YouTube channel. Let me put that there. So people can find you on YouTube by just typing your name, Gloria Hass, Hass.
Yes. And I have two channels, and it's the one that says author and visionary. I've separated, because one is strictly faith-based and the other one is my writings and my visions.
All right. They can find you on Facebook, Twitter, and
Instagram.
Twitter and Instagram. Let's see. Let's touch in on question. So how the forensic side, what was explain the first case.
Oh, this was really weird. I'm sitting on the couch and I was just dozing off, and I hear, go on Facebook. And I had just gotten on Facebook. I was tired. The last thing I wanted to do was go back on social media. And then I hear in a stronger voice, go on Facebook now. So I get up and I get on Facebook, and there in one of my friends' feed was a missing person, a family member of theirs that had been missing. And I just started seeing visions and I got a notebook out, started taking notes, everything else. And then I wrote down the note, and I saved her picture, and I got off Facebook, and I was still looking at it and everything, taking more notes. And then I contacted the number they said to call, and I explained about everything. And I was vetted by another police officer. And then it was a missing person from over 30 years ago. Wow. And then the detective who's working on the case called me, and he said, why don't you tell me in your words? I said, but I told the other officer. He goes, tell me, what you've seen. And I was able to disclose parts of the case that had never been presented to the public.
Huh.
And he just started freaking out. He said, well, I've been praying for someone to help. And he doesn't return. It's really weird, because whenever there's been a break in this case, he'll hear from me. And one time he said, call me. And he goes, you're freaking me out, because I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom. And all of a sudden I see the woman's spirit dancing, and she's saying, I'm free, I'm free. Yeah. And I called him, and he said, I'm standing on the property with the cadaver dogs, and you contact me and ask me what's going on in the case. He goes, you're freaking me out, Gloria. You really are. So that case was, it's in the process of still being resolved, because according to the politics of the police department, you have to have certain things in place before you're able to disclose anything. And my part in the case is over. Yeah. But I'm still curious as to, what did you find when you did this? But he can't tell me.
Yeah, they're not allowed to tell. Yeah. And this is a case that occurred 30 plus years ago.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
And it was interesting. It was a learning curve for me because I'm so used to the dreams, the visions, and the dreams being very literal, that the more that I get into this, I'm finding that they're not. They can have other meanings.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that. And I had seen her walking through the house when in actuality, her remains had been, the cadaver dogs found her remains around the house.
Yeah.
She had been buried and, you know, she was dismembered and parts were around the house. And then I also saw her under a tree, and that's where the cadaver dogs had gone because they found something else there and stuff like that. And I found something close to where they found a certain part of the case that was missing, but I never picked up on that part of it. I was more tuned into her than other parts of the case.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that I don't always get the information. And then as the case goes on, I have found that, lost my train of thought, that things start repeating themselves. If I start getting repeat visions, then that means I've received everything that I'm going to receive.
Yeah. Huh. And now these aren't, was this a local case close to you,
No.
or was this is definitely
No,
an
it was in the Midwest, northern Midwest, and I'm
okay.
in there with me being in Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you now does, I wouldn't say that you're be soliciting to any local law enforcement community and stuff like that. Now has since then, the law enforcement community reached out to you, or is it the general public kind of go, hey, I would like your help on this. I got a missing person or something like that, and then you go in through the family to assist, or do they reach out to you, the law enforcement?
None of them reach out to me. None at all. I've always had to do the reaching out. And that's, it's like, okay, I'm waiting, or I call and tell them I can help with the case. Oh, but we have other visionaries who are working on this. We'll hold on to your resume and we'll contact you if we need you. So it's like,
Yeah.
I know the door, it's
a resume. I'm like, okay.
I know, and I let them know I have my resume with everything ready in PDF format.
Yeah.
But even local law enforcement require me to work on site, and I'm not physically able to do that.
Yeah.
So they have very strict vetting. They have where I would go through 2 to 3 month background check.
Wow.
And all they want to do is help with the cold cases, but
Yeah.
they have a very strict protocol.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's well, I wouldn't say it's strange, but I mean, this is the type of field that the military's been working with for years.
Mm-hmm.
CIA has been working with for years. FBI has been working with for years. But it seems like local law enforcement or municipalities just seem to kind of like shun away from it a little bit. Have you known one municipality being a little bit lighter on it and softer on it than another?
I ended up, well, actually, the one that I worked with in the northern Midwest, they were a little tighter to work with than the one that I worked with in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And that was where I was receiving visions, constant visions. And the woman's spirit came and draped herself over me. Wow. And she started taking over. And it's like, this is how I cut up the ground beef. And I'm just like, okay. And this is the first time it's ever happened. And my dog's looking at me and looking all around and everything else. And then I could start seeing where she lived when she draped over me. I could see that I was actually in her kitchen and saw her children outside playing, and different things started coming around, but she wouldn't talk to me. But I had already received a call of action, come to find out, from the Indian chief And he spoke to me not in his native language. And I found out later, because I'm more westernized with the Native American Indian culture, this is why my brain transferred it, because it was so to Lakota in language instead of their native language.
Yeah.
And I can't say who it is because the family has asked me to not say anything because it's an active murder case from 4 years ago.
Mm.
But I started this in March, and I have it up on my visions and dreams. And then 3 months later, I found the family, but the Indian chief wanted me to call her Lucy. And that was not a nickname or anyone in the family, but I understand why now. And then I contacted, at first, it was a plain state because of what I saw behind me. Saw in the visions, and then behind me in my thing, there's a picture that looks similar to where she grew up in a completely different state. And it wasn't the plain state. And I contacted Oklahoma, spoke to the police officer. He went to bat for me. He was in there and asking people, old timers, other people, where there was prairie grass. I kept seeing what I thought was prairie grass. It was actually long grass, which can look like prairie grass at a distance. But then I also had visions of two men, but one I didn't see the face of, but I thought the accomplice that helped the killer carry the body out because he needed help. See, I thought they carried her out of the house when actually that was not literal, but he was helping carrying her. But it was showing that it was her house because in relation to it being her. And then I found out with the cultural difference, had to break down, and it was so many cryptic visions around it, where I see a field of a certain type of flower, and then I see a red door, and then I had to put the red with the one, and come to find out it was a bar where the accomplice lives. And it was such a roundabout way that it was getting more detailed and more cryptic. And then after 3 months, I was I found the cousin, and we had talked and we had chatted and everything. And where I told her where her cousin was buried, she said, well, she can't be there. He wouldn't be that stupid. But then she mentioned, because I described the killer's face to her, and she said, are you sure he's the killer? I said, well, when I'm sitting on the couch and I don't have a laptop, but it's like a screen pops up in front of me like a laptop, and he looks at me and says, hello. And I'm just like, hello, who are you? And he holds up a picture of her face of the ritualistic killing that he did to her and says, how do you like my masterpiece? And then she tells me his name, and it was him. And he is one of the suspects. And it's just really wild.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cases are different. So like you would have a case where you're actually seeing the crime take place. But that doesn't always happen, correct? You don't always get that.
No, I don't, because the police officer in the northern United States had asked me about another case. And I had actually seen how the person was killed. And I went to the bathroom and I had dry heaves over the toilet. It was that gruesome.
Wow.
Yeah. Makes my stomach still a little upset just to think about what somebody can do to a family member because of rage and greed.
Yeah, that would turn my stomach too if I saw something, in my mind's eye, and it just is. Now, and that's the thing too, is like being careful to share this information with the family members. As you're giving them the information, you got to be kind of careful
sensitive
as to how much what you're seeing and how much you're seeing. Not too many details. Got to give them a warning, I guess, right?
Oh, I do. I tell them, while I'm happy to be able to help you resolve what is going on, this is a bittersweet moment for me. And there have been times where I have actually burst into tears having to relay this information, because being an empath, I can feel their feelings.
Yeah.
And it's not a good moment for me to be able to say, hey, this is what I found out. It's just like, I want you to know that I don't take pleasure in any of this. And just letting you know that I said, how much do you want to know? And they're like, we want to know everything. And I'm like, okay. And I take out my notebook and I explain it. And not everyone wants to hear the truth after, even though they say they do. I mean, it's a lot for them to absorb. Here they've been looking for a family member. They know that she's been murdered. They suspect they know who it was. And then to say, but no, we see the person over here because we have, visionaries and our intuitives in our family. So you cannot be saying over here at all. And then I'm like, I just have to drop it and say, well, are you sure you're not meaning this? And I stick by what I see. I don't change it. Oh yeah, well, I may be wrong, but no, this is what I've seen.
Yeah.
And have you seen water? No. Well, was she floated down the river? I said, not with her having a burial shroud on. Well, that means she's in a grave. I go, yes, it does. But that's what I've seen.
Mm.
And I'm not saying I'm 100% right. And I'm not saying, and I could be wrong, because I might be changing it literally. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you feel that some of the stuff, like as the incident had happened, you're seeing it in the victims through the victim's eyes, or like watching it outside? Yeah, the third party aspect, not a POV act. Yeah.
I've seen it both through the victim's eyes. I've also been a third person in a vehicle while they're going down the road, meaning the body was being transported. And I've also seen it through the killer's eyes.
Oh. Okay.
When they're scoping out an area, I feel like I'm inside their head and they're scoping out a certain area to see what would be a good place to take the body and dismember it.
Yeah. How many of these cases have you done thus far?
4.
And it takes time too, like you said. I mean, you could be months or even years on a case. It just depends on the case.
I had one woman, I was being vetted for a volunteer job with an organization to help family members.
Yeah.
And she wanted to know some information, and I only came up with like 5 minutes worth, which is a lot at that point. And then she said, well, you told so-and-so all this other information. I said, that was 3 months worth of work.
Huh.
And, and something has changed in my personal life to where I had to say I'm not able to do that at this time, and maybe in the future.
Yeah. So if any of our viewers and or listeners happen to know anybody and stuff like that, and they wanted to reach out to you, what type of information would they need to present to you in order to, other than saying, hey, can you help me? What type of information, other, like, I guess obviously a photograph and stuff, but what helps you the most?
The person's name and the details surrounding their disappearance, because some of them have the details of their death and want to know the why and want me to get into the head of the killer, or to find out who the killer is. And in one case, the person was not willing to send me a picture for me to do more. but she said they ruled it a suicide and it was a murder.
Yeah.
And I told her
Yeah.
there was a struggle, but because she wasn't pleased with the information, she just shut me down.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Because they're still trying to process, things through. It's very hard to hear that information. And actually, I worked on 5. I was, I had another vision that came up and saw the person, and I contacted the woman and told her how her mother had died and where I had seen her. And she said, I was wondering why I was having dreams where my mother took me to the lake when we went on picnics. And
Yeah.
she wanted to know how her mother had died. And I told her her mother was drowned. And what they did was, how she drowned was horrible. And then she wanted to know where her mother was buried. And her mother told me. And I told her exactly where her mother was located. But now, because it's been 40 years, 45 years, there's probably no bones left, because it takes 40 to 50 years for bones to completely decompose.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I would assume the next step too, I mean, once you share the information with the direct family members, or that one particular person that reached out to you, that next step is that family member now has to reach out to that municipality, that local law enforcement, or whoever's doing the investigation, say, hey, I've got information leading in this case, if the case is still open, of course.
Right.
But and then that's another cycle and another step in red tape, so to speak.
And do they really want to go through that?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because it can be a process. Let's see, we've got Resonant Vibe is on. Do you know what happens to people who overdose?
I can. I can know that.
Yeah.
I just got cold chills.
I'm feeling it too. I just felt it. I was like, whoa. And it's not because the ceiling fan's on, because I got 3 layers on right now. So I felt that. I felt that too.
Yeah, and
Because that actually, that question hit me really hard, because I might actually have a case for you. And I don't think it was an overdose case. So but yeah, we'll talk maybe after,
yes,
maybe some other time about that. But yeah, I mean, I've known people who've overdosed and stuff like that, but someone who does overdose and disappears, they, have you ever had any overdose cases or disappearances?
no. Actually, before my brother died, he was messing with his diabetes and his blood sugar, because he was slowly killing himself on purpose.
Mm,
And I told him, I said, I can't be in touch with you anymore. He goes, why? I said, because when you least expect it, you're going to sit on the floor and you're going to die.
oof.
You're not going to make it to what you need to do. And then 2 years later, I got a call from the police department where he lives, and I was expecting the call. And I could feel for a month or 2 that I was expecting it. And it was in August, and it was August 23rd. My phone rang, and they asked me, does your brother have a tattoo? And I said, yes. I told him what it was. He goes, well, on what shoulder? I said, I don't know. It had been 10 years or 4 years since I had seen him.
Yeah.
And I spoke with a medical examiner, and she told me, well, how do I think he died? And I explained everything in detail. And she's like, were you here? And I said, no, I'm, 7 hours away, and I don't have a car, and I don't, I'm no longer driving. And no,
Yeah.
because she came to that conclusion. That's how he died.
Wow.
So it was just really, really weird.
Yeah, and as far as as far as overdosing, it could be a mistaken overdose. It could be, you know, oh, I took the wrong pill with alcohol, or I took too much and didn't realize it, or I took the wrong one instead of that one, and yeah, you had a reaction. So yeah, I mean, overdose could be many different things, rather than recreationally.
Like
How
the
do
one
you,
case,
yeah,
like the
go
one
ahead.
case I had told you about, where the family thought it was a suicide. It was actually a struggle, and the person forced the pills down the person's throat.
Oh,
Yeah. So
yeah. Oof. Yeah. How do you how do you prepare for a particular, like, before you get in and start, like, before you're, say someone sends you a file and boom, there it is, you got the file, but before you open it and before you do your thing and stuff, do you have a method of preparedness, a mental, emotional, physical, a spiritual routine that you do, to just kind of, a prayer, um, and a blessing beforehand? Um,
yes, I do. I go ahead and I get away from the computer because everything's electronically.
yeah.
I go and sit on my couch and I do my best because usually my prayer room is in my bedroom and I don't want to mix the spirits in there. It's enough that my dog goes nuts in the living room with the
uh,
different spirits at times. So
yeah.
I sit on the couch and I take some deep breaths and I pray and I ask and I say that, God, I want to bring glory to you, through this. Could you please show me what needs to be done and bring the darkness to light? And I have a few other things that I do. I found out what not to do with my first case. I
Uh,
can send a bolo out, and what happens is all I'm doing is sending energy out, and it comes back and hits me and knocks me down,
oh,
spiritually, not psychically,
yeah.
and energy wise for a couple of days. I said, well, I'm not doing that
Oh,
because I hadn't done it before. I was just, checking because when I've done remote touching, I do basically the same thing, but I lock onto a target. But with a
yeah.
bolo, there's nothing to lock onto because the person's not alive. But
Yeah.
then I go ahead and I just wait to see what happens, which can be immediate or not immediate. Sometimes I get things about the case before I even open a file, and then I'll go and open the file when I'm feeling on top of my game and not feeling tired or anything. So that's when I wait for that to make sure, because sometimes these drain me a lot. If I have to do a lot of query in the supernatural, that tires me. I just get quite tired.
Yeah. 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 Doing too many readings does it. I slept like almost two solid days after just doing 7 readings at a psychic fair.
Wow.
It takes it out. It takes it out of you.
Yep.
Um, has has a spirit, like, say, you obviously put up, like, do you like put like boundaries up, like, okay, I am, doors open, the office door is open, ready for business, start doing your work, and then you have like a cutoff time, and you let the spirit know that, okay, you, doors closed, office is closed, not receiving anything. But have they kind of like, no, your office door is open, I insist? Have they
Yes.
reached out to you, during a case when you weren't taking calls?
Yes, it's actually funny because I was working on the 34-year-old one case, and I'm talking to her, and her spirit is very meek and very weak. She's more on the timid side.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, okay, trying to pull it. And then this other one comes right through the one who's I had seen with the family, goes, no, I've got a message for you right now. I said, I'm talking to so-and-so. No, I insist right now. I said, And I asked her, do you mind? She said, and next thing I know, her spirit's gone. It's like she's not going to be around anything that strong. He had a very, very strong personality. And I said, just take a step back. You're draining me. And then he was telling me things, and I'm writing it down. He goes, call the police now. Call the police now. I said, it's after a certain time. I said, his phone is off. I promise I'll call in the morning. Okay, but you've got to be there. And then first thing in the morning, he's waking me up. Call now, call now. So
Wow.
I call, and the police officer answers, because he wasn't actually busy at that time, and it was in the winter time. So he has more free time. And I was explaining everything to him. And he goes, that's interesting, because this happened about a few days ago.
Wow.
He goes, yes, I'm worried about my wife because of this and this and this and this.
Now, now does your local police department? I mean, are you like on like, I wouldn't say a call list or anything like that, but are there any, like the sheriff in town? You know, hey Gloria, how you doing? You know, on a first name basis with them and stuff like that, or call me if you need help.
Actually, because I have to be enlisted as a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
I have contacted the local Indian reservation, and they won't have anything to do with me because I'm not a native.
Yeah.
And so they don't, even though I would like to help them. And I could reach out to the agency in South Tucson, but I'm being told that this is not the right time. So I'm going to wait. I just feel like the doors have been closed locally, but they're open anywhere else.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's like I said, yeah, it's interesting with the law enforcement communities. It all depends on, I don't know, I guess it's a demographic thing. Yeah, depending on the town, depending on the community. If it was a spiritualist community and they had a local law enforcement officer, it'd be like, yeah, go ahead. Right on. Go ahead.
We already have hundreds of people helping, but I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, let me get off the that for a moment and touch in on your other work as a writer or an author.
Mm-hmm.
What is your what work? Yeah, do I have the name of the book? What is the name of the book?
The Dick Jorgensen murder.
Yeah, I don't have it on here. I think I was, but I was doing the editing and stuff like that, so I was like, oh, I missed something. Yeah, explain what was the what was the name again?
The Dick Jorgensen murder.
The Dick Jorgensen murder. Explain that a little bit. How'd that come about?
I can't exactly say how it came about because that's confidential. But I do know that I've highly fictionalized a cold case.
Okay.
That had happened.
Yeah.
And that's how that one came about.
Okay. All right.
I don't want to get people in trouble.
Oh, I don't. Me neither. Yeah. Yeah, I think
So
before the show last week, I was like, yeah, just only share what you're allowed to share.
Right, but it is a thriller, and it has
Yeah.
gory stuff in it that actually did not happen. And I've had to change certain areas and names of cities and towns, and then I went into it. If I were a police officer, what would I do and how would I break it down? So that's part of it, is the research that a police officer would do. And of course, the woman he's working with who contacted him is a visionary and works in her father's PI business. And since she was a child, she had this gift And then as a teenager in high school, she would help him on cold cases, active cases, and stuff like that. So that's and it's a series. I'll be writing the book 2 next year.
Oh, okay. Cool. I ask all my guests this, especially those that, in mediumship and spiritualism and all kinds of stuff. Have you ever had a case, and it doesn't even have to be like a cold case file or anything. Have you ever had any experience with, there's a lot of our listeners and audience wants to know this, is any extraterrestrial type energy or entities or whatnot that you have had experience with?
Since I was 8 or 9 years old, I have, and recently it's picked up, and the truth about something that happened to me in my 20s came to light, and it was just very unsettling. And I called and I sent my my one cousin they don't have cell phones. So by email, I send an email, can we talk? And I'm struggling. Meanwhile, I talked with someone who had a different type of experience. It was a man, and we talked about it, but I'm saying I'm having difficulty with this. And he said, Gloria, life is life. And then my cousin and I spoke for an hour and a half this past weekend, and I felt 3/4 better because she was able to break things down from a different point of view for me to be able to accept what had happened. And I've even had them, gosh, I think it was last month or 6 weeks ago. I lose track of time. But one night I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden this light comes in through my window, and my blinds are closed. And next thing I know, because I'm laying in bed and the door to my bathroom is open, maybe about that far. And just above at the top of the door, it's about a 10-inch orb.
Oh.
Staring at me. And I'm like, I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm just going to go to sleep. I'll go to sleep. Okay, feeling really uncomfortable. And the next thing you know, another beam of light came flying through my window and was right next to the orb. And it was elongated. And I'm like, okay, God, this is really creepy. This is really weird. Can we just get rid of them? And then they were gone. But even before that, they were shining lights in my bedroom window, and where I live is 60 feet above the ground. And there was no sound. So I know it wasn't the police helicopter, and why would they be shining a light in my room?
Yeah.
It's not me. It's not me. But, so I've had that happen, and across the street from where I live in this one area, and it's only been at 5:45 in the morning that it's happened. I've had 3 different things happen, and my dog can also sense it, 3 or 4. So, and I've seen a gray walking down the street. Actually, he was off-white, walking up the street, and when he saw me, went into cloak mode, and I thought, I know I shouldn't, but I took my dog, we took off across the street. There's no cars. And I went over to the portal area, which somebody said it's probably a portal that was being opened. And it smelled musty, and my dog could smell it and wanted to take a step in further. I said, no, we're just moving right along. I was just curious as to what was going on, because they were coming down the street to walk back towards the portal.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're a lot closer to Area 51 than I am, and probably also one of our guests is over by Fort Washuka.
Yes, I'm like an hour and a half away from Fort Washuka. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been through there, and that whole area is really creepy. There in Sierra Vista, I just get very unnerved being in that area. It makes my skin and my hair stand up. And
yeah. Yeah, there's something too intriguing about the West. I mean, I've traveled out through Arizona. I loved Williams, Arizona. It's really nice. You got the pine trees and stuff like that. It's a little bit higher elevation, outside of the desert and stuff, and Kitts Peak and but yeah, it seems the energy in the desert type regions and stuff like that has a much more mystical energy to it than Florida, the jungle-ish and stuff like that. And that's what's always intrigued me of, the desert type regions and the Rockies and stuff. How long have you lived in? Is that originally where you're from, or?
No, I grew up in the Mojave Desert in California.
Oh, okay.
That's where I got my first sighting was there,
Yeah,
but I've also lived in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
But I've been here, about 15 years.
Oh, okay.
In the state of Arizona.
Yeah.
I've been back this time 10 years.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the what do you as far as the community that you're in and stuff, the town that you're in, do you have, as far as like events that you go to participate in, or you travel outside, you do like expos or shows and stuff, or do readings, or aside from the work?
No, I don't, because that's not really prevalent here. I've gone on Meetup and there aren't any groups, or if they have, they've died away, or they do a lot of this ritualistic stuff that I'm not even a part of. That does not interest me, because I don't know what spirits they're conjuring up, and they're the ones controlling it. So I would rather know what's going on ahead of time, because of what are they actually bringing up? Do I really want to be a part of that? Do I really want a spirit to attach itself to me? Those are all the questions that I have to ask.
Yeah.
And when I read about what they do, I just get this weird stay away feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a good idea. It's like, I mean, if it was like a drum circle or a full moon circle or new moon circle, it's a whole different story. But when you don't give it a weird name, it's like, I've never heard of that before.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've let's see. So you've read for people in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm trying to look here. Without a Trace, the vlog show. That's your. Is that a currently going show that you have?
I only had one case come up, and it was just really wild, because it was taking place in the 40s or 30s.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly about this woman. That it's like watching an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and it's all in black and white, and she's running with her purse under her arm, dressed in that type era, and she was running from someone. I was going to put up about the woman that I had seen before, that I had worked on for 3 months, but the family prefers that I don't. So I've not had anything else on Without a Trace right now. All the visions that I've been having recently in the last month, since we had that solar flare in the middle of July, that really took me out for like 5 days. I had extreme migraines and feeling really bad. It took me 3 days to recover from that. That all the visions and the paranormal supernatural visits I've been having have been related to me personally. They've all been personal messages. So those it's for my direction and not for me to share with other people, because it has no basis for them. And I don't want somebody to take my personal message and claim it as theirs, and then they come back and saying, I thought this was for me. And I just haven't really had anything to go forward on with what transpired with the news that I heard, that I am actually, unpacking and taking it and breaking it down in parts for me. So I really haven't done anything with visions and dreams or Without a Trace or the Hass reports.
Yeah.
It's like I've got this message to hold back, like we spoke earlier before the show, slow down and breathe, because there's something that's coming that I need to be prepared for, and I don't quite know what it is. So I just need to take things slower, and that's what I'm doing. It's frustrating at times because it's like, but I want, but I don't have.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you've got to be stronger. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Do you have any upcoming projects that you're doing, on your own, stuff that you're developing, any classes you're developing, any programs you're developing?
Actually, I was going to do a program, but then it was like the thought was literally taken out of my brain. So it's like, okay, I won't do that. But I am. I've produced in the past 2 weeks 11 blank line journals and put them up on Amazon for sale. And this week I'm going to write start on a science fiction project with my cousin and get that going, because I'm feeling the urgency to work on that. And there's a reason for it. And it's going to be a fictionalized book. She said, write everything in fiction form, because you don't want to happen to you what happened to Whitley Strieber when he first went public. She said, and that's what is going to happen if you don't write it in fiction form. Yeah. So
change names and, change the, any location names change, people's names change. And
some of the scenarios are going to be changed, but some of the experiences will be real, but I've got to change, what happened surrounding that. So that's, and my cousin said, I told him having an urgency. She said, well, you need to write it now, because it's probably going to bring out memories from people that they haven't had, but it's going to be that they haven't remembered, not had, but haven't remembered. But it's going to be a good thing to help move the greater good along in the paranormal realm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange, I want to say it's a very strange world, and the amount of experiences that people have. I mean, I've got my own, which I can probably write 10 books on. But for those people out there that are afraid to express it, that are afraid that the world's going to laugh at them, or their friends are going to laugh at them, in general, the public is going to laugh at me because if I tell this story, you have any advice on anybody that, has something, but they're afraid to share it?
Well, they can contact me, because I know of a group on Facebook that I have found to be a very safe group, where you can talk and express what's going on. And it's private, it's not marked public. So all the posts are private and stays within the group. And people are very supportive. I still haven't gone public about this one thing that happened to me, because I don't feel comfortable sharing it. But there are other things that I have spoken about, and the people are just, like that one time with the portal opening, I said, I've heard, this was the sound I heard, and somebody said, and this is how I felt. Somebody said, that sounds like a portal that is opening up. So it's, like I said, it's a very safe space. Contact me and say you want to know what, for the paranormal group that I'm in, where you can share, and it's a safe place. Or if they just want to contact me and talk about what's going on, I'll be very happy to talk with them too.
Definitely. Let me put up your Facebook page there too. That way they can connect with you on Facebook if need be. And that would be Gloria.Hass, HASS.9. 9. That's a good number.
That's the one Facebook gave me.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
It was meant to be. Meant to be.
Yep. From what I understand, that's a good number.
Powers of
So
three. Yep. Wow. It has been it's been a real treat to have you on tonight. And definitely welcome back anytime. I mean, these shows are every Monday at 8. And for those who are watching and listening, hope you had it got a little tough in the beginning when, you know, talking on the cold cases and some of the details that you were able to share. And it is intriguing. And it is a blessing too, for you to be able to do what you do. And some people aren't able to do it. And if they can do it, they just choose not to, because it's very sensitive.
it can be very depressing at times where I
Yeah,
have to go watch a happy movie or, you know, Hallmark happy, you know, go light and stuff like that. I cannot watch a Rizzoli and Isles or anything else. And it is difficult at times. And there are times where I just sit and cry just to get everything out because of the dark side of humanity when all of this happens. But I know that it looks like I'm bouncing around, but I'm only going where I'm being guided. And I'm, you know, somebody wants to contact me and says, hey, can you help with this? I'd be very open and happy to do so.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me.
You were very welcome. And you said that you weren't expecting rain tonight, which is interesting. But I'm not expecting rain either, and I'm hearing thunder outside of the studio. So
ruh-roh.
Yeah, right. Something happens.
Well,
usually
I'm told,
when I have a show. So it's like,
well, I am told that I can affect the climate where people are. If I get upset, this one person, we don't talk on the phone anymore because every time we talked, it would rain.
Wow.
Said, I hate to see what would happen if you got upset with me.
Yeah.
I would just feel sad about the situation, and then rain would fall.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, it's thunder. You won't. Nobody will ever hear it through the microphone through here because I got a filter on and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like, what is that? Oh wow. And it's actually started a little while ago. It was probably about maybe a half hour in when we were kind of getting out of that area of awkwardness, you know, of details and stuff like that. I'm going, huh? No way.
That's probably why the awkwardness brought about the atmospheric change.
We spawned it up. We got it churning, churned it up a little bit. And yeah. Wow. Well, Gloria, thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you on tonight. Welcome back anytime. And for all the viewers and or soon to be, you can listen to this on any of the podcast networks and stuff. But you have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much, Gloria.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and also a blessing for the type of work that you do. And if there is anybody out there that feels that they might need help trying to resolve an issue that we've talked about this evening, reach out to Gloria, and she might be able to set something up. And other than that, we will end on a brighter note. To the highest and best, and love and light. Gloria, namaste. Blessings, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome. God bless.
God bless.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into Conscious Radio Network. And please like, share, comment. And until next Monday, everyone, you have a good night,